News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. So we have, it's been a while since we've had on a friend of this show, and literally a wonderfully engaging guest with a rich history and knowledge. And this is a best-selling New York Times author who is also a journalist, has his own television show for journalism, his own websites for all Israel news and all Arab news. Which I'll tell you about in a minute, but he is also just a really fantastic friend of the show, but also was Rush's producer 30 years ago or so, something in that area. So he's just a wonderful guest, but he's also so good with his New York Times best-selling books. For example, he has world leaders in the Middle East, all over, who have had him over to say, well, I read your book about, for example, King Abdullah in Jordan said, I read your book, and my administration said, read his book, you got to do it, about how he's overthrown in this, it's like a half-truth, half-fiction, story. The king had him over, King Abdullah, and flew him up in choppers and while he watched war games and such. He's that effective at what he does, and that respected as somebody in the world who should be consulted on things, whether they be terrorism, war, geopolitics, etc. Joel C. Rosenberg joining us now. Joel, just to let everybody know too, Joel is, as I've mentioned, New York Times best-selling author, over 5 million copies of his books in print. The latest is the Libyan Diversion from Tyndale House Publishers. He's the host of the Rosenberg Report on TBN, the first ever weekly primetime news show from Israel on an American network. He's the editor-in-chief of All Israel News and of All Arab News, providing original reporting and exclusive interviews for evangelical Christians around the world. Joel and his wife Lynn founded the Joshua Fund in 2006 to strengthen the church in Israel and the Arab world. My friend and author Joel C. Rosenberg joins us now on the Chris Crock Show. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I am doing well, Chris Crockett. It's great to be with you. Great to be in Dallas. I'm sorry I'm not with you actually in person tonight, but it's great to be on the air with you again. It's been too long, and I'm grateful that you had me on.
Well, and the good thing is, without the time change, I assume you've been acclimated a little bit. I don't know exactly when you touched down here. I know it's a pain in the butt to acclimate to the time changes. My gosh, but I'm glad you're here, and so I'm glad we're at the same time level right now to really get you knock it out of the park with you. So I've got so much. The first thing I guess I'll get into is the calling for, this is insane, the Chuck Schumer publicly calling for your president, of course you're dual U.S. Israeli citizen, but the president of your country, the president of your country telling the prime minister of your other country to step down and that he has to be replaced is unthinkable and is insane to me. And to me it seems to be a cabal that Chuck Schumer was put up to by Joe Biden, and then he slowly the next day said yes. I think it was a good speech. Tell me what the reaction was in Israel, what your reaction is, and what the people of Israel are thinking about this.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you asking me the first question. Look, what the Senate Majority Leader has done is absolutely reprehensible. I mean, for the highest ranking leader in the Senate, also the highest ranking elected Jewish official in American history, to denounce the government of Israel and call for regime change in Israel, a democratically elected ally that's in a fight for our lives against Iranian terror proxies. This is crazy. Like, has Senator Chuck Schumer called for regime change in Russia? How about bringing Xi Jinping down in China? Mm-hmm. Is Schumer calling for regime change in Iran? No, he's calling for regime change in Israel. He's saying that the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is dangerous, reckless, irresponsible, and needs to be removed immediately. And you're like, wait a minute. Okay, let's say Schumer has honest policy disagreements. fine. Every Israeli has a policy disagreement with the prime minister of Israel. But an ally, a superpower, does not condemn the democratically elected government of
Sorry, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. Can you hear me okay, Joel?
I can, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. There, it does not call for what?
Does not. I mean, a superpower doesn't call for the government of an ally to resign and regime change in the middle of a hot war. It's just, it's just insane what Schumer is doing, and it shows the dangerous forces going on inside the Democratic Party that they can't even stand with Israel 100% until victory. Like, yeah, there will be elections in Israel, and Netanyahu honestly has a lot to account for because he did preside over the worst massacre of Jews on one day since the Holocaust.
Right.
And the Israeli people will have an election, and Netanyahu will defend his record. He's done so many other good things that everything will get weighed together. And he may not last. I don't know. But I know that is not the place of a Senate Majority Leader backed up by an American president. Biden is the one behind all this and has praised Schumer. This is not the role of the American government in the when Israel, a country of only 10 million people, is fighting for our lives.
Joel C. Rosenberg. Another question is what does the Israeli people what do the Israeli people think of this? And I assume that every one of them knows about this. And then also even the people who are the nemesis or people who would never vote for of Netanyahu in Israel. What do the Israeli people think about this?
Overall, I think Israelis are shocked that an American president and the Senate Majority Leader who is Jewish would trash and so publicly denounce an Israeli prime minister or whatever his party, whatever his background, in the middle of a war. Benny Gantz used to be the opposition leader in Israel. He's a former defense minister in Israel. He's a former chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Forces. So a real national security expert, Benny Gantz. Mm-hmm. Benny Gantz was the opposition leader. But on October 7th, when Israel was invaded by 3,000 Hamas terrorists,
yes,
within just, I think, 48, maybe 72 hours, Netanyahu reached out to Benny Gantz and asked, can we form an emergency unity government? We don't agree on everything, but we agree we have to win, and I want you on my team. And Gantz, to his credit, said yes. So what did Gantz say about Schumer and Biden? He criticized those Democratic leaders as saying this is inappropriate. Now, obviously, Gantz wants to be the prime minister at some point, right. and right now the polls show that he will be the prime minister if elections are held tomorrow. But he does not want American leaders to be interfering in Israel's democratic process. What he wants is what every Israeli wants, which is we want 100% U.S. backing for us to win, and then we'll have an election and figure out how to go forward. But this is inappropriate.
Okay, Joel C. Rosenberg, New York Times bestselling author of the new book, The Libyan Diversion, and available everywhere books are sold. But the Rosenberg Report on TBN is a great show. You got to check it out by going to the rosenbergreport.tv, and then also go to allisrael.com for all Israel news to get everything that is Israel from my friend Joel C. Rosenberg, as well as being an author. He's a journalist on television and with the Rosenberg Report and via the web with his fantastic writing and his staff. All right, so Joel, can you stand by, brother? I want to talk to you coming up next about why do you think Biden and Schumer called for Netanyahu to step down? What are they really doing for their benefit?
Sure.
How does it benefit them? All right, so Joel, stand by. We'll continue with our great discussion from him next on the Chris Crock Show and News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Palestinian civilians do not deserve to suffer for the sins of Hamas, and Israel has a moral obligation to do better. The United States has an obligation to do better.
New York Times bestselling author Joel C. Rosenberg. has a new book, The Libyan Diversion, from Tyndale House Publishers, available everywhere books are sold. The Rosenberg Report television show, journalist broadcast show on TBN. It is a fantastic weekly primetime news show from Israel on American network. Of course, he's the editor-in-chief of All Israel News and All Arab News. Go to allisrael.com for that. And my friend Joel C. Rosenberg joined us for the hour, which is, I'm really grateful for that, Joe, and your time. Thank you. While you're here in Dallas right now on a stop. Thanks for your time, brother. Okay, so
absolutely.
Getting back to this, I wanted to ask you about, with the calling for the Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden by saying what he did was a good speech. Why are they calling for Netanyahu to step down?
So all politics is local, right? Mm-hmm. So why? So you'd think, well, they're making an attack on a democratically elected ally. So why are they doing it? Well, Chuck Schumer is doing it, in my view, because he's got he's going to be challenged for the Senate majority role. There's another Democrat, I believe it's Chris Van Hollen, is going to challenge him. And so, what does Schumer feel as a Jewish? This really bothers me as an American and an Israeli, but also as someone who's Jewish. That Chuck Schumer, who's Jewish, is turning on a Jewish ally. But why is he doing it? Because he's placating. He's trying to play for the Rashida Tlaib AOC base, the Ilhan Omar base, which is so anti-Israel and so hostile and so not just progressive. I mean, it's so
anti-Semitic. I mean, it
really is anti-Semitic.
Yes.
I mean, Rashida Tlaib in particular, but the whole group of them.
Yes.
And but Schumer is so insecure in his own support for America's most important and trusted and trustworthy ally in the Middle East, the only democratic ally in the Middle East, that he is more willing to throw Prime Minister Netanyahu under the bus than to stand up against the crazies in the Democratic Party and say, no, I am not going to kowtow to your craziness. And I think that's really problematic. Now, what is Biden doing? Biden is doing the same thing, but Biden's worse because Biden is schizophrenic. And I don't mean literally medically, but I just mean look at how, on the one hand, Biden calls himself a Zionist, meaning he believes that Israel has a biblical and moral right to be a country there because God gave us that land 3,000 years ago through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what it means to be a Zionist. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think Biden is right about that, and Biden has done some really good things. He flew over to Israel right after the war started. I mean, what American president, even the most pro-Israel president in American history, Donald Trump, for all his strengths, he never came to Israel on Air Force One during a hot war. So Biden gets credit for showing up.
But to Trump's defense, there was none because Trump was in office.
No, it's not a criticism of Trump.
No, I know it isn't. But I'm saying, to be fair, there wasn't one because Trump was in office, and therefore there wasn't Middle East.
That's true.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
So Biden is also resupplying Israel with a lot of weapons that are being destroyed and a lot of resupplying ammunition. Mm-hmm. Biden is also protecting Israel at the United Nations from crazy countries that are trying to condemn us. But simultaneously, he just said that he opposes Israel going into Rafah. That's the southernmost city in the Gaza Strip. And he opposes that operation to destroy the rest of the Hamas terror brigades. And you're like, why? He's claiming publicly, Biden is, that Israel won't handle it responsibly. Now, first of all, that's offensive.
Right.
Secondly, Israel's doing everything that is humanly possible, more than any other army, including the American army in Afghanistan or in Iraq, to protect civilians. It's not easy. And Hamas is making it horrifically difficult. But Hamas must be destroyed. Biden has said Hamas must be destroyed. And Netanyahu is about to finish off Hamas, and yet at the last moment, President Biden pulls the rug out from under our ally. Now, can imagine if an Israeli prime minister had told the United States, do not finish off Saddam Hussein. Do not finish off Al Qaeda. Do not. That's wrong. You're almost there. You've got about 25
don't finish off
more,
ISIS.
But don't do it. Don't finish off ISIS. But of course, that is what Obama and Biden did. They didn't finish off ISIS.
Correct.
It took Trump to come in and finish off ISIS. But this is the schizophrenia going on inside Biden. He means well, but he's not that bright.
I believe he's doing it because, including his red line, he said, and then he draw it back, and he, all this with the red line there in Israel too. But with Israel, but I believe he's doing it because of the Michigan, the Arab vote in Michigan and Minnesota. That's it. What do you think?
So it's two things. It's partly that he's doing it for domestic political purposes because he's starting to lose to Trump, and he's in shock. But the second thing is, let's call it the Taliban syndrome, right? The United States is coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and what does Biden do? He says, "Oh, I know. We'll surrender to the Taliban on the 20th anniversary and pull all U.S. forces out. And don't worry, the democratically elected government won't collapse." Everyone knew it was going to collapse. Everyone told, including Democrats, told Biden, don't pull the Jenga stick out of the game or the whole thing will collapse. He did it anyway.
Right.
And that wasn't Biden's first time.
Correct.
Biden had advised Obama to pull all U.S. forces out of Iraq in 2011.
Yes.
And everybody, including the defense secretary at the time, and Hillary Clinton, who was the Secretary of State, said, Mr. President, please, you cannot pull all U.S. forces out or it will create a vacuum and a genocide will be created. But Obama listened to Biden, and all U.S. forces were pulled out, and that vacuum was created, and that's where ISIS
the JV team that he called JV,
exactly,
right,
and created against Christians and massacred Muslims and Yazidis.
Yep.
So Biden.
Can you pause that? Can you pause that thought real fast? I want to. You continue coming up next, but then we're going to also pivot to the war on Hamas. Specifically, you were in the tunnels. You were in the kibbutzim. You were in the tunnels underneath Gaza with the IDF and such. With the Rosenberg Report television show on TBN that you have, and then also reporting on that for AllIsrael.com. All Israel News. So we'll continue talking with New York Times bestselling author Joel C. Rosenberg, whose new book, The Libyan Diversion, is out everywhere books are sold. Joel, stand by. We're going to continue coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Thank you, brother. All right, that's next. New York Times bestselling author, and of course the author of a brand new book, The Libyan Diversion, everywhere books are sold. He's also the host of the Rosenberg Report on TBN, the first ever weekly primetime news show from Israel on an American network. And, of course, check out the latest on everything Israel with news by going to allisrael.com for all Israel news. Joel C. Rosenberg joins us. Really grateful for you spending such amount of time with us tonight, friend. Thanks for joining us on the Chris Crock Show again, Joel.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And you know what? Let's take a moment, if we could.
Yeah.
And talk about that novel that you keep mentioning, mine, The Libyan Diversion.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. Because I wrote that about 2 years ago.
Okay.
The Libyan Diversion came out about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And what is the premise of the Libyan Diversion? The premise is that the CIA team involved in hunting the world's most dangerous radical Islamist terrorist organization and its leader is the terrorist leader sets up a diversion and lures the CIA team into Libya, making the Americans think that the bad guys are in Libya, when actually simultaneously radical Islamist terrorists are sneaking into the United States, across the Mexican border,
there you go,
Texas, to bring nuclear weapons
Yes.
in to pull off an attack on the United States exponentially worse than 9/11.
There you go.
Now, when I wrote that,
Yep.
I didn't imagine that the Israeli border on our southern border would be so dangerous that 3,000 terrorists could come in and kill more Jews in one day than the Holocaust, than since the Holocaust. But what actually is happening is, now that I'm with you and I'm in Texas, this is an opportunity to talk about just as bad as what Israel has just experienced. The United States may face something vastly worse, and President Biden is just letting this border open.
Yes.
With no interest and no in stopping that massive invasion by 8 million people, and with no care or apparent concern that terrorists are entering the country and could do something far worse than what happened in Israel and far worse than 9/11. And that was a fictional premise of the Libyan diversion, but it feels chilling to be in Texas right now and to think it. But for your own governor, who's amazing, there's nobody to stop these terrorists from just walking into the country.
Well, we just heard tonight that the most wanted member of Tren de Aragua from one of the most wanted from Tren de Aragua, wanted out of another one of the South American countries, I should say the South American countries, was allowed in on Joe Biden's administration on his watch because he's letting everybody come in. Then he's one of the Venezuelan illegals, and then he was caught and arrested by our Texas authorities, and they discovered it, and then it just came out that he, of course, was allowed into this country and is one of the most wanted people who has escaped Venezuela, and they've all come here. So what is the truth is of this is the most violent, wicked criminals thinkable, worse than our criminals in any way, shape, or form, and way worse than MS-13, are here, including their most wanted, are here because of Joe Biden. And I talked to a former, DHS expert on nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, and I said just 3 quick questions. I said, can they bring over a nuclear material for a dirty bomb in a backpack? Yes. How about anthrax ricin? Yes. How about the chem bio weapons that we just talked about? Chem bio? Yes. So this has already happened, I believe, and I think that your book is the Libyan diversion is absolutely true as far as happening. I think it's already happened. It's unbelievable. Go ahead and finish that. Yeah, go ahead and finish your point.
So I've been worried, obviously, about America's southern border for quite some time.
Yes.
It was becoming increasingly and impressively secure during the Trump administration, and then Biden just threw the doors open, and now the U.S. Constitution specifically commands as commander-in-chief to prevent invasion. And if 8 million people entering the United States without any legal process isn't an invasion, I'm really not entirely sure what the definition of invasion would be.
And look at the war and terror ravaging the country of Haiti. The Dominican Republic is now finishing its border wall. They've announced they're going to seal off the border where the wall they've already put up, they said, is working. So it does work, and there's current 2024 evidence thereof.
Well, here's another example, actually. Yes. So the Egyptians don't want any Palestinians entering Egypt. So they built a double wall on the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. Here's an Arab country that has 100 million people. They won't let a single Palestinian Arab in, and it prevents them from coming in, Arabs into an Arab country in the midst of a humanitarian crisis and a war. They built a double wall, and it works. And that
yes.
work.
Hey,
well, the problem is that Israel's failure to guard our border is proof that if you take your eye off the ball and you act like no one cares, it doesn't matter. It does matter, and someone's going to exploit that weakness and kill a lot of people. And I never thought it could happen in Israel. I thought, sure, in America, under Biden, yes, this could happen. But I really write a novel about about an invasion on Israel's southern border.
Right.
I never imagined Netanyahu or anybody else in the Israeli government would ever take their eye off that ball.
Joel, why has not one Arab said yes to taking in the Palestinians even now? Why won't they?
Well, it's actually tragic, and the reason is, and I know President al-Sisi. I've had 4 meetings with him, and I know King Abdullah in Jordan. And the tragedy is the Palestinians have made themselves a brand of terror. And even though it's not true that every Palestinian is a terrorist, not at all. But the brand of the Palestinian people is a terrorist brand. Everybody in the world fears Palestinians. Why? Because they for decades they blew up planes, they blew up school children, they take hostages, they slaughter people, and they cut off their heads, they burn people alive. That is the brand image that they have promulgated through Yasser Arafat back in the day, and of course Hamas up to this present moment. And for this, President Biden wants to reward this terror culture with their own sovereign state, which is like, I'm sorry, wait, what? So the thing gets compounded so that even Arab states don't want Palestinians from Gaza to come in because they don't know who's who. They're worried that terrorists will enter their country,
right,
and start to blow up their moderate governments. And it's tragic for the Palestinians, but it's almost understandable from Arab governments to fear. I don't know who these people are, and if there's time. So there was a poll in December by the most reputable Palestinian polling firm, and they found that 75% of Palestinians praise October 7th, the invasion, the slaughter of Jews, and wish it could happen again. And that's 82% of West Bank Palestinians and 52% of Gazan Palestinians. So if you take it all together, 3 out of 4 Palestinians think that the invasion and slaughter and genocidal attack on Israel on October 7th was a good thing. That's what makes not just Israelis fear the Palestinians, but it makes the Egyptians and the Jordanian governments fear. How do I know if we're going to let one of those folks in and that they're going to end up trying to take down a moderate government?
Joel, I want to pause you because I want to get rapid fire in the next segment. We have one left about Israel, the war on Hamas and everything going on right now, where they're at and where they're going to go, where they want to finish. Israel wants to finish. Can you stand by, brother?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hey, by the way, who was that study again? What company or outfit?
I've got it handy. It's the Palestinian. The Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey and Research. I'll tweet it out right now.
Yes, and I'll retweet it. Thank you, brother.
Great.
All right, stand by. Joel C. Rosenberg, New York Times bestselling author. The book is available everywhere books are sold, and that book, of course, is called The Libyan Diversion. His television shows, The Rosenberg Report on TBN, and his website to check out is All Israel News by going to allisrael.com, and it's all of these products are top-notch to watch, to consume, to read. My friend Joel Rosenberg continues next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Check out his new book, The Libyan Diversion. Check out allisrael.com, which is All Israel News. And the Rosenberg Report, it's a television journalist show, of course, weekly news magazine at Trinity Broadcast Network by going to the rosenbergreport.tv. Joel Rosenberg, New York Times bestselling author and friend of the show. How are you, friend? Thanks for joining us for one last segment here. I want to do rapid fire because we've got such little time and we talk so much together in a good way, but time runs out so fast with us, which is
lightning round. I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go, brother. Okay. So, what's going on here? Who is winning this war, and who's going to win the war, and when, and why, and how?
The good news is Israel is absolutely winning this war in terms of the military conflict. We have defeated about 20 of Hamas's 24 brigades. We have taken out most of, but not quite all of, their terrorist leaders. And we've rescued or persuaded Hamas to give up and give back almost half of our hostages. But we are losing the battle for public opinion. And part of the reason is because of President Biden and Senate Majority Leader Schumer, who keeps attacking the Prime Minister of Israel as being dangerous and irresponsible when we're fighting a bloodthirsty genocidal enemy. And that is not helpful for an American president and Senate Majority Leader to throw a democratically elected leader under the bus during a war.
Joel, casualties, they say 30,000. That's a lie. Overwhelming amount of those are the terrorists. Explain what the numbers are in reality.
We don't actually know how many Palestinians have died in this war because we can't trust the Hamas figures, and they're liars. So, but Israel itself has said that they have killed, arrested, or severely wounded about 3/4 of the Hamas terror force. So that number would put it at somewhere around 20 to 25,000. So, but the point is, those are fighters, and those are people that are trying to kill us, and we're on hunt for them. But have Palestinian civilians who may or may not be innocent, but they're not part of Hamas, have they been killed? Tragically, yes.
So that makes it about 20 to 20. That makes it about 10 to 5,000 to 10,000 actual civilians. Does that sound about right to you? If you're guesstimating based on the numbers and what you just heard from the numbers?
Best we can tell right now, that it may be higher, but the point is, if you actually look at the studies, and several have been done that are quite good, the percentage of, and actually the sheer number, but the percentage of civilians who are being killed by Israel inadvertently
is stunningly low.
If you compare to how many civilians the United States killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, we're about 10%
better
of the American number. Now,
way better.
How many of us were critical of America? I mean, it was tragic, but that's what war is. It's messy, it's tragic. But we didn't blame America for fighting to protect ourselves from terrorists. And the terrorist regimes that set those wars into motion, they were the ones to blame.
Correct. The UN says combat in urban is about 9 civilians for every 1 soldier killed, but Israel is 1 to 1.5, which is stunningly effective in not killing civilians by accident. They're amazing at their results. The tunnels. You were recently under the terror tunnels in Gaza. Tell me what you witnessed, what you saw.
It's absolutely astonishing, Chris, to be an Israeli, an American, from a Jewish background. I'm an evangelical Christian, and to be invited by the Israeli Defense Forces to bring a TV crew and actually go into Gaza.
Yes.
Machine gun fire all around, explosions all around, and then they took us into the most recently discovered complex of terror tunnels where at least 12 Israeli hostages were being held. I actually stepped into the cages that Hamas built to keep Israeli civilians trapped in that cage. And then we saw the headquarters of the most senior Hamas leaders who had to flee just moments before the IDF fought their way into those tunnels. It's really a chilling place to be, because I, as a reporter, then got to go home that night and kiss my wife and take a shower and have dinner. And there's still 134 Israeli and American hostages held in those tunnels on day 164. And rather than Biden putting pressure on Qatar, the small Arab country in the Gulf that where the top Hamas leaders live, Biden re-signed a deal for a U.S. military base to be there in January without using any leverage to force Qatar to put pressure on Hamas and arrest all the Hamas terror leaders that live in their country.
Yep, I'm with you 110%. How about the kibbutzim? You toured the kibbutzim where the horrific rapes, beheadings, murders, tortures, and such of our Jewish friends. What can you tell us of that quickly? And I have one more question that's important about Iran and Russia and China and North Korea. Go ahead, sir.
Personally, I've never witnessed anything so tragic, and I've been to Auschwitz, and I've been to I've been to Iraq, I've been to Afghanistan, but I've never seen anything as barbaric as blood-soaked homes riddled with bullets, torch marks where they burned Jews alive in their homes in these Israeli farm communities right along the Gaza border. I've taken groups of evangelical leaders there. I've taken, I've been there with former world leaders, Boris Johnson of the Prime Minister of Great Britain, and everybody is moved. Everybody is like, oh my gosh, I'd heard about it. I read about these tragedies, these savage, barbaric moves. But to actually walk in these homes and where it really happened, it's just the most revolting thing. It's just sheer evil.
It's pure satanic, truthfully, in my opinion. Okay, what of Iran and their involvement in this, in Russia, China, North Korea, and what's going on with them in this? We only have, unfortunately, 25 seconds. Go.
I'm afraid, Chris, that the next 8 months are going to be the most dangerous period in world history. Why? Because look at the terror forces that are already on the move. Russia, Putin invading Ukraine, Iran through Hamas invading Israel. So when does China make its move on Taiwan?
Correct.
When does North Korea?
Correct.
They all see Biden weakness.
Yes.
They don't see him stopping at all. And they have a window of about 8 or 9 months until maybe Trump gets back where they can't make their move. So I'm worried about these next 8 or 9 months.
I'm grateful that you told us that and you're being frank with us. Our dear friend Joel C. Rosenberg, New York Times bestselling author. The book is The Libyan Diversion. Watch his show, The Rosenberg Report, on TBN, and also read All Israel News. Google it. Goes right to it. We appreciate you, brother, for everything you do. We're praying for you to get a safe return back to Israel, and grateful for everything you do for all of us in this country and the world and Israel as well. Thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It's great to be with you.
Talk to you soon. All right, thank you. Bye. Joel Rosenberg, he's amazing.